Hey guys, welcome to this month's album breakdown. So this is an evolution of the idea of the song breakdown, and instead of just breaking down individual songs, I'm going to talk about our major releases. So last month I did the first EP, So Flows Our Fate, and now I'm going to move on to our first album, which is These Paths We Tread. So this was released in 2017, and this is the first time we actually had the help of a label. So we released this through Heavy Psych Records, who don't actually exist anymore, but that's a whole other story. So we were pretty involved with the release as well. So we'd already had some contacts from releasing the first EP ourselves, and we actually used the same vinyl production house, and we used the same artist to do the artwork. And if you've seen the artwork for this, it's pretty stunning, really. Dominic Sohor did it, and it's still one of my favourite pieces of artwork. And I think I might actually do a separate video just breaking down the actual artwork itself, because I gave him the quite a lofty task of incorporating references to every single song on the album within the artwork, and he somehow managed to do that, which is pretty impressive. So yeah, really good artwork, check that out. But I'm gonna, like last month, I'm gonna basically give you a general overview, which is what I'm doing now, and then I'm gonna actually talk about the songs in context. And then finally, I'm going to kind of show you threads that link all of the songs together and general themes which kind of run throughout the album. So without further ado, I'm going to talk about the songs in context. So I'm not going to do the entire album because this would be a really long video then. So I'm going to break this album down into two parts. So this is part one of These Paths We Tread. And the first songs that I'm going to deal with, or the very first song I'm going to deal with, is My Leviathan. So this was, or has always been, a live favourite song. And on the album, it starts out with kind of wave sounds and things like that at the start of it, and kind of a very sort of a picking guitar part, and then kicks in with probably one of the heaviest riffs that I've ever written, actually. Interesting point about writing that riff actually is that it started out as the picking part, and when I write picking parts on guitar, I tend to just do whatever comes into my mind, and it so happened that when I turned that picking part into a heavy riff, it's like no heavy riff I would ever have written. And so the reason it sounds so heavy and sort of different is because it actually came from a picking part, and I would if I'd have tried writing that heavy riff like that, I don't think I ever would have achieved it like that. So interesting sort of context of somehow something light can actually lead to something unexpected and heavy. And the main driving force in this song as well is the drum beat. It's quite an unusual drum beat, and it's the thing I think this gives the signature to the song, really. But if you want to have a more in-depth look at the song, then I'll put a link to the video, and you can look at when I really analyse what the song's all about, because it's all about sort of a whale and stuff like that, and it has sort of some religious connotations in there as well, so it's quite interesting. So check out that video. So then the next song on the album, which is another favourite of people live. I've actually had people come up to me and say that this song was really important to them, and it's So They Walk, actually. And this reflected us sort of moving in a slightly different musical direction. We wanted something that was a little bit more upbeat. We'd done a lot of slow stuff, and we wanted something that was kind of like, had a bit of bounce to it, I guess. And I also kind of, in terms of the lyrics, this song is about me starting to come to terms with being a frontman in a band, which I'd never done before. And so it is kind of interesting from that point of view. Not everybody was picked up on that, and various other people have got what they want from the song, and that's the wonderful thing about music. Anybody can get what they want from your music, and if it helps them, then it helps them, you know. But yeah, it definitely had quite a bouncy riff to it, and definitely kind of, I guess, a catchy hook in it, which I think helped this sort of lodge in people's minds. And it was a staple of our live set for quite a long time, until later on, which I discuss in a video, which you can check out the video of the deep dive of the analysis of So They Walk, that this song kind of, in the function that it performed in the set, it got replaced by Death of All. And Death of All, from my point of view as a songwriter, was what this song was always meant to be, and we never quite achieved it. But that doesn't mean it's a bad song. It just means that the idea I had in my head, Death of All, actually achieved the idea. So that's pretty cool. And then the third song I'm going to talk about, which I guess almost brings you to the end of the first side of the vinyl, if you were listening to it on vinyl, is Serpentine, which is consistently not only a big favourite live, it's a favourite amongst us within the band. It's like got the most listens, I think, or it did for a long time have the most listens of any of our songs on Spotify, and just generally speaking, it's one of those epic songs. And I would say that it was the first epic song that we wrote, the song that sort of went through lots of different movements within it and has this big kind of stoner rock ending to it, and it kind of, you know, thematically it's about a dragon, which is pretty cool. Of course, you know, as a joke that I make when we play live about how somebody told me once that instead of sounding like it's about a dragon, the lyrics sound a little bit like they're about male genitalia, but you know, I'll let that be up to you, whether you decide it's about dragons or it's about, in fact, maybe it's about dragons' penis. Who knows? I don't really know. I just wrote it about this Norse myth, and then all of a sudden now somebody's told me that the lyrics sound like something completely different. So there you go, music, you just put it out there and it changes. So yeah, Serpentine, always been a big favourite, and we just love playing it. It's one of those songs, especially when you get to the end section. When I play it live, I'm like, now I can have some fun. And it's effortless, really, and absolutely love it. And we've recently brought it back into the set, and quite happy about that. That's good. We've even given it a little bit of a lick of paint, and we kind of rajified the drums a little bit, so it definitely feels fresh again, which is excellent. Right, so that's the first 3 songs on this album, and now I'm going to talk about the songs, sort of the themes that link the songs together. So in the first EP, it was all about like historical disasters, from sort of like me imagining what it would be like to be there, and there was some other stuff chucked in there, like kind of a bit of a sort of a warped love song, but generally speaking, the threads that linked the first EP together were historical disasters and water, I think, and drowning. Now, this album, I definitely wanted to evolve things. I didn't just want to keep doing the same thing again. And while it's true, there are some songs in this album that have reference to things that have happened, like real things that have happened. My main focus was more along the lines of myth. And I started to read a lot more myths, and so a lot of the songs on this are about myths that I read about. Like My Leviathan is about this myth, about this sort of, or one particular version of it was that I decided to focus on, was about a myth about this huge whale that would consume sinners. And Serpentine is about the myth of this dwarf. It's a Norse myth about this dwarf called Fafnir that loved gold, and eventually loved gold so much that he turned into a dragon, and that's what Serpentine is all about. So The Walk probably isn't really about myth as such, but I think the language of it, I still wanted to have a kind of a poetic nature to it, so I did put some quite sort of colourful language in So The Walk, but it's not necessarily a reference to a particular myth. And then in the second half of this video, which I'll do next month, I will talk about some of the other songs on here, like Wrath of Aphrodite. Obviously, it's pretty obvious what that's about. And Centralia, although it's not really about a myth, again, Centralia is probably a song that is like closer to the first EP. And Maenads is definitely about myth. But anyway, don't talk about them, they're for next month. So yeah, so I think that the things that link this together is obviously the mythic content to it. I'd expanded my, the things that I was drawing from on my songwriting. But there's also one really important theme that runs through a lot of this. Other than the songs that are directly about myself, there's definitely for me a thread about writing songs about powerful women, and just powerful women within myth. And that became a particular theme within this, because I love women, and so it was obvious to write songs about them. Cool. So yeah, so that's the first half of these Paths Through Churn. I hope you've enjoyed this album breakdown. I know I'm kind of waffling a bit, but that's kind of the whole point of these videos, right? You're getting to get inside my head a little bit, and see why I write these songs. And yeah, so check out the second part next month, and hopefully see you at a gig soon. Bye bye.